Where were you on that fateful day in September 2001? President George W. Bush was in his school watching a classroom learn reading activities when he was informed about the attacks. My name is David Carezzi, and today in this speech I am here to inform about the pros of George W. Bush's presidency. In my free time recently during this pandemic, I've been spending a lot of time researching American presidential history, and I've looked at presidents across all sides of the political spectrum. W. Bush was a very controversial president, and indeed he does have plenty of cons. However, I am here to mainly list the pros. The first pro I have was his Bullhorn speech delivered on September 14th, 3 days after the attack. It was right on the rubble remains of the Twin Towers after the terrorist attacks knocked them down. This speech was known to have its ability to comfort Bush's citizens that he was presiding over after the terrorist attacks had everyone scared and shocked. Americans all across the political spectrum were united as one. I would arguably say at least that no politician or leader across any side of the political spectrum today could unify the country as much as Bush did on that fateful day. It also boosted patriotism to a very high level. You could hear the chants shouting, USA, USA, USA. Now this second pro here is a rather controversial one that some would even say is a con, depending on how they look at it. This is referring to the Bush on terror. Going back to the Bullhorn speech for a second here, Bush said that the perpetrators of the September 11th attacks would, quote, hear our voices. He assured this by starting the war on terror with Iraq, Afghanistan, and others. Now, there are multiple ways to look at this, but here's how I see it. One of the greatest accomplishments of this war on terror was capturing Iraq dictator Saddam Hussein and bringing him to justice, as he had been ruthlessly dictating over his people for decades now. It can almost be compared to past presidents helping to free Germany and the Soviet Union over the course of World War II and the Cold War. By doing this, he definitely, at least partially, lived up to his promise that he made during the Bullhorn attacks. Hussein heard our voices, and he was going after Osama bin Laden as well. However, Bush did not take him out. That was Obama's doing. Many people will say that this war on terrorism dragged on for too long, which is a very reasonable standpoint. We are now almost 20 years to the day of 9/11, and we still, to this day, have troops in Afghanistan, despite multiple leaders since Bush making pledges to bring them home. However, I must note, since September 11th, 2001, America has not had another terrorist attack to the scale of 9/11, partially due to Bush's war on terrorism, keeping the terrorists in the Middle East busy, as well as his establishment of the Department of Homeland Security. To wrap up, Bush was definitely a controversial president by all means. However, he did manage to unite the country and comfort his citizens in times of fear and unsureness. He also did live up to his promise, depending on how you look at it, of his Bullhorn speech. Regardless of what you think of Bush, he was definitely an influential president, and he had a consequential presidency. I would like to thank you all for listening to my speech.